Hey, welcome to this lecture. I'm going to be talking to you about the visual elements of all art. So, every drawing you could ever create is composed of 5 elements. 5 elements. And so these are called the visual elements of art. And the first one is line. So that's number 1. Line is the first visual element of all art. Either straight or curved, this is a mark that spans the distance between 2 points. Either straight or curved. Essentially, it's a dot in motion. So you start with a dot. Whoops. So you start with a dot and you continue it in motion. The width is determined by the mark making tool. So that is my setting here on my size of my brush, or the size of your pencil lead. A line has width, direction, length, and curve. An outline is a type of line, as is cross hatching, but an outline creates a two-dimensional shape when it's completed. So this is a line, but if I complete it, I create a square. A shape can be organic or geometric in nature. So let's go on to number 2, and that's going to be form. Form is the number 2 element in art. Form is an image, and it creates the illusion of perceived volume and depth created by employing techniques such as shading and perspective. So we can have a 1-point perspective here. Let's say that's our vanishing point, and we can create our guidelines like that, and we can create a form, and we can even we can shade this to make it look even better. We can create that illusion of 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional plane. So the tonal scale, also known as value scale, is the amount of lightness or darkness present on any given object in any given color. The difference in tones next to each other is called contrast, and this can be used in the process of giving a shape its form. So for example, we could shade this shape the darkest because the sun is over here, and we could shade this side with a slightly lighter tone, and we can even improve that illusion of form. So let's go on to number 3, and that is texture. So texture is the description of how something looks or feels in an image. There are 2 types of textures, visual and tactile. So when you're doing digital art, you can't get a tactile texture because that would be like your paint globs. If you were really painting with paint, there would be like globs and different striations in that texture because of the brush you were using, and on and on. You can buy different kinds of products to give you different textures when you're doing traditional artwork. If you're doing digital, it's completely a visual type of texture. So if I had like a circle here, I could make it seem like let's say this is a planet or something like that. I can make it seem like there's all kinds of craters and that this is like a craggy planet, right? Just by how I make the illusions of texture. But you can't actually like touch and feel it, even if you print off the image. So I'm giving the illusion that it's being raised off the page, and a tactile texture is one that actually rises off the page and can be felt with touch. A painting will typically have more tactile textures than a drawing, even with a pencil, because of how some types of paint dry. Some examples of texture are bumpy, smooth, fuzzy, wet, and rough. So let's go on to number 4, and that is color. So there are 3 properties to the element of color: hue, saturation, and value. Hue refers to the wavelength of the light photon when it reaches our eye. This is the name we give colors such as red or blue. Saturation is also known as intensity. It's the purity of the color. So that bright, intense red that I'm working with right here would be a very saturated red. A desaturated red would be something more like this. And if we go even further into the desaturation, you can see that we're getting towards gray. So that is like a saturation scale, for example. So this would be the most saturated. This is the most unsaturated. It's just the vibrancy of it. So let's go on to number 5. And number 5 is pattern. And that is the last visual element of art. So pattern is an underlying structure of form and space that is organized in consistent and regular ways to promote rhythm. It can be either man-made or natural. Okay, so those are the 5 visual elements of art. I hope you learned a lot in this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one.